Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva.
and this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder.
And this.
And we are coming at you guys late, both late in the week
Hmm?
and late at night.
Yes.
Between baby and work this week was wild. Today was the first day that I wasn't like, what the fuck, in like the whole week.
Yeah.
Which is good. Even if you just get one day a week that's not like crazy, it's like a nice little reset. And I'm glad that we're able to record today when I'm not like looking around like a wild animal. And I know you just told me that you got the most sleep that you've had last night. So hopefully you're feeling comparatively better.
Well, in a row, it was a 3.5 hour stretch of sleep, and that was pretty thrilling.
Yeah,
For me, I looked at the clock like, goddamn.
that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah,
Congratulations. It'll
yeah.
happen.
It makes a difference, really. I'm like a sleep nap connoisseur, and really the hour nap kind of sucks. 2 hour,
Yeah.
each hour really adds a different feeling. But that 3.5 hour one, when I woke up, I was like, whoa. I
Yeah.
just sleep for 8 hours? Like I feel so rested. I could go to work right now. Like I feel I can take on the day. Um,
That's good. Well,
so
congratulations.
thanks.
By the time he's 8 years old, you'll be having to argue with him about getting up for school. So just be
Oh my
ready.
God.
It'll be here
I
before you
can't.
know it.
I will encourage them to sleep in too much. I guess not for school. You can't do that. On
No,
the
you got.
weekends, everyone sleep in.
Oh, I wish. We're all up by like 7. So it's
Boo.
fucking disgusting. I don't know what happened to my life. Anyway, okay, let's get this going. We are
Yes.
doing serial killers from around the world. Diva chose
Global.
this.
I like international things. I like travel.
We're very
It's
America centric, which is like ironic
yeah. Well, we do
considering.
a lot of British and Australian things, I'd say, and I try to pepper in some international things here and there.
Totally. It's just a lot of whiteys, to be honest. We're like
Yeah.
Australian, English, American, like
Hmm.
we gotta expand a little bit.
We're
So that's what we're doing.
diversifying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I'm gonna go first. Guys, we're just gonna get into it because it's fucking late and we both want to go to sleep. Just straight
I'm
up.
very
I'm gonna be
tired.
honest with
Yeah.
y'all. R.I.P. Masumi Max, by the way. Do you know who that is?
And I don't.
Oh my god, she was like a pinup. Um, when I was like in my 20s, I like thought she was so amazing because she was like beautiful and has all these great tattoos and was like,
Mm.
yeah, she was a badass and she died and it's really fucking sad. And I hate that. And also a
Also,
man was put to death today using experimental gas chamber. So that's
whoa.
good. Yeah. I forget his name. I got in an argument with somebody on Instagram and told them that they were an animal because they were like, "Well, it's an experiment. At least he's good for something, like
Oh
checking if
my
it works." And I
God.
was like,
Ew. People are
you're
disgusting.
yeah, people are horrifying." So anyway, that's my little bits of news. But let's
Also, speaking of rest in peace,
oh,
rest in not peace, Carl Andre, you piece of dog shit. Um,
wait, what?
so yeah, Carl Andre, the minimalist artist who killed Ana Mendieta. I hope he rots in hell. So
Wait, did he die today?
yeah,
Oh shit.
yeah,
Amazing. So
yeah. Fuck him.
sorry. Amazing. Like, wow.
Yeah.
That's
So I just want to say, I hope he
amazing.
doesn't rest in peace specifically.
Yeah, he killed a wonderful artist and never saw justice for that, which is real fucked up. Real fucked up.
Yeah,
Guys, we covered that case if you want to go back and find it.
we did, right?
Yeah, and you covered it and it was super infuriating.
I
And
forget what for what, but poor list. But
is it
I
killer
did,
is it
yeah.
killers that got away with it?
Oh yeah, maybe because we did, because he
It
did. So
makes sense. If it wasn't that
yeah,
list, it should have been. So if you guys
yeah.
want to hear that super infuriating story, that's where you'll find it. Anyway, yeah, rest in piss, as all my punk rock friends say. Anyway, okay. So moving on, we're going to talk about serial killers of the world, and I did a case out of South Africa. This is Moses Sithole or Sithole. This is otherwise known as the ABC killer.
Great.
And this man was born in apartheid South Africa on November 17th, 1964, in the Transvaal province, which is now Gauteng. And I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. He was one of five kids. He was born somewhere in the middle of the five. I think towards the older side. I don't think he was like the very middle child, so maybe like second oldest. His when he was five, his father died unexpectedly and very suddenly. His father, Simon, and his mother, who was an abusive alcoholic, was unable to care for the five children. So she dumped them all at a police station, telling the other ones to lie or essentially not give away that she was their mother.
God.
And yeah, and then Moses and the younger kids, so maybe he was younger, I don't know. But anyway, he had no idea what was happening, really. And the police took these kids and dumped them in an orphanage, which is a pretty common thing. And like I said, Moses didn't realize she'd put him there. And after 3 years, because he was dumped there when he was five. So after 3 years at age 8, he ran away and found his mother. And he was so excited to come home and see her, thinking it was like a big, misunderstanding. But she made it, you know, very, very clear that she did not want him. And she scolded him and took him back to the orphanage where she dumped him. And as far as I know, he never saw her again. So pretty
Wow.
yeah, two major traumatic experiences in his life by the time he is 8 years old, which is pretty fucked
That's
up.
a fucked up childhood.
Yes. Also, he's a black person living in apartheid South Africa, so like,
Yeah, it's already not good.
yeah, it's just general horror all the time.
Yeah.
3 more years pass, and during this time, Moses said he was sexually abused by some of the workers in the orphanage, which I do not doubt. And at age 11, he ran away and went to live with his older brother, Patrick, who was already old enough, I guess, to not be in the orphanage anymore. Now, what age that is, I do not know. I don't know if that's like 14 or if it's 18, but I know that he had his own place and Moses went to live with him. From there, now remember, he's not that old at this point. He worked menial jobs, including working in a mine. So, you know, all those diamonds are being, mined at the hands of children.
Oh yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, lots of horrific capitalist bullshit
yes,
trades happening. Yeah.
yeah, it abounds.
Hmm.
I read something, and I don't know for sure, but I read something about him selling his older brother's house without his brother's permission, and then like bailing out and moving to another area. So I don't know if that
My
really
God.
happened, but that's pretty fucking weird and pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Now, as a young man living on his own, Moses was sexually promiscuous, which happens often with children who were sexually abused. He had a string of girlfriends, none of whom were very serious, but he was good looking. He was also very smart and very well spoken. So he had no trouble getting girls and impressing people. He was very charming, very uh,
Classic. Yeah.
charismatic. Yeah, yeah. So in 1987, when he was 22 years old, he had, sorry, I dumped my mic. He had a girlfriend that he was at least a little bit serious with, at least enough that he would spend time with her family, including her sister, Patricia. Now, in 1987, at some point, the pair, he and Patricia, so his girlfriend's sister, were
Hmm.
walking near an abandoned mine when Moses attacked Patricia out of nowhere, raping her and leaving her with her clothing pulled up over her head.
Someone he knows too, so that's
Hmm.
kind of like was personally connected to, so that's surprising.
Very surprising. She did not tell anyone. Yeah, she was too afraid.
Whoa,
She was too afraid to report his behavior, which like I will
that's gnarly.
not, yeah, I will not be judging her for that.
Right.
But I did want to call that out because he then went on to rape two other women who were also too afraid to report him.
Wow, they must really not have any confidence that the cops will do shit, I bet.
I mean, I think that's fair. I'm just gonna say, like,
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, again, no judgment. Finally, though, on his fourth attack, he attacked a woman who was not afraid to report him for whatever reason. This woman was Doris Swakamisa, and when he met her, he lied to her about his position with a big company which he did not work at, and he offered her a job. He said, come in and meet with me for an interview, and she agreed. And instead, he took her to a veld, which is their word for like a big open field, and he raped her. He told her that if she promised not to report him, he would let her go, and she promised. And I assume this is what he did to his other victims, where he scared them so completely that they were just afraid to do anything. When she was free, however, Doris immediately went and reported him. He had given a fake name, so police were unable to find him at first, but she actually saw him out and about in town. And when she did, she again called police and had them come arrest him in that moment. So pretty
Wow.
yeah, pretty ballsy and like badass on her part.
Very much. Yeah. And other people have been afraid to do anything.
I would have probably just run and hid.
Yeah.
Yeah. She also went to court and testified against him. So like
Wow.
she was not fucking around.
Yeah.
He was found guilty and he was given 7 years in a prison in Boxburg, but ended up getting out in less than 4 for good behavior, which is
Oh,
whatever. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Even during his trial, it was clear that he felt that Doris had betrayed him and somehow owed him something, and he was fucking furious that she turned him in. I read that even
Okay.
during his arrest, I guess Doris was there because she fucking called the cops when she saw him. And so
Yeah.
while he was being arrested, he said to her, quote, "Bitch, I should have killed you."
Woo.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you right now, he meant it because
Oh no.
yeah, while he never saw her again, he did learn to leave no witnesses lest he return to prison.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So after his release, he was again sort of accepted by women in the area as well as the general community who found him polite, smart, and handsome.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I know. Lucky him. He met and married a young woman with whom he had a daughter, and for a time he worked for her brother fixing cars. Eventually, though, he told his family he wanted to go, into town to find a better job, and every day he would put on a suit and go job hunting. Or at least this is what he told his family he was doing. What he was really doing was hunting women.
Ugh.
I know. And between July 1994 and November 1995, he killed at least, now listen, July 1994 and November
Mhm.
1995. That's about
Okay.
18 months.
Okay.
He killed at least 38 women.
Whew.
Yes.
That is a lot. Very quick.
Very, very a lot. Yes.
Very a lot.
Very a
Yeah.
lot. His first known murder victim was 18-year-old Marina Monama, who he had offered a job working for his nonprofit company that did not exist. This turned into a big part of his MO, offering women jobs, then taking them to a veld where he would rape, torture, and strangle them to death with their own underwear or pantyhose.
Mm.
Now, I mentioned how many women he killed, and he started slow with as much as a month between murders, but quickly picked up his pace with about one victim per week in the last few months before he was caught.
He's doing like a frenzy thing at the end. Okay.
He was going off. One of his victims was rumored to be his girlfriend, but she was only victim number 2. So it wasn't like super obvious that like all these murdered women were connected to him. Like if he had murdered her later on, police probably would have more quickly traced it back to him. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if that makes sense. Like it seemed more
Yeah.
random that his girlfriend had died than likely that he did it.
Okay.
This is so fucked. One of his victims had her 2-year-old son with her when she was attacked. Moses beat him over the head and left him to die of exposure,
Holy
which
shit.
he did.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So it's like that's very Richard Ramirez, like just attacking a whole family and the
Mhm.
kid and whoever's
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Like,
Whoever's there. Yep. Now, police were slow on the idea that there was a serial killer at work, which is weird because there was actually another killer also at work in the same area at the exact same time. This was a man named David Salepe, and at one point it was thought that the two actually were killing together, but in the end it was determined that they probably never even met, definitely didn't kill people together. But it was interesting that the police were like so I mean, is it interesting? I don't know. It could just be par for the course that they were like, there's no serial killer when there were fucking two. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of silly. But anyway, it took a while, but they were finally, they finally came to the conclusion there's a serial killer and they were on his trail. And they found his MO to be very similar from victim to victim. And that's rape, torture, strangulation with underwear or pantyhose.
Ugh.
Yeah. And even with this growing number of victims, they were not able to find this man. They finally called in, because we can't escape America, they finally called in help from the FBI, and world famous profiler Robert Ressler put together a profile that was crazy close. Now, you've watched Mindhunter, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Bill Tench is Robert Ressler. That is who he's modeled
Okay.
after.
I think,
So,
yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
yeah, Bill Tench is the older cop, the older FBI agent
Yes.
that like chain smokes.
Hmm.
Apparently, that is like Robert Ressler, like to a T, which I love.
Perfect.
It
I
also
want to read
makes
that book.
me, I know, me too. I don't
Yeah.
think I have it. I gotta find it. Anyway, so this guy's awesome, very good at what he does. One of the, he's on the forefront. He created the term serial killer. And he came out to South Africa and put a profile together, and he said that this killer was, quote, intelligent and an intelligent, organized individual with a high sex drive, and that he, quote, had a growing sense of confidence and could likely have the help of a second killer, which is interesting. He put this together before it was found that there were two killers. And so even though they never worked together, the fact that Robert Ressler realized that there were two separate people doing killing at this time was pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah. I love that profiling, like, that shit. That's so cool.
It's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really fucking spot on. So now in September 1995, police are trying to find this fucking guy, trying to figure anything out, and they unearth a mass grave outside of an abandoned mine. And remember that he worked in the mines for a while. So obviously would have known where abandoned ones were, would have known where, how to get around them. And in this mass grave, they found about 10 buried bodies. So that's a lot of fucking people. Police were able to
Wow.
have, yeah, police were able to identify many of these victims and began interviewing these victims' families. And as they did so, it was found that they were all offered a job working for a nonprofit and had all disappeared while out for an interview.
Hmm.
So here's this MO. They're trying to figure out how he lures these women. And he was smart about this too. He would often do multiple interviews to make the women feel safe, which is probably how he got them
Uh,
to voluntarily like walk into fields with him.
yeah, because he would establish, like, look, I'm normal. This one went fine. Like,
Yeah, just come back for another one. And this is something that serial killers and murderers have done in the past. It's not just him,
hmm,
where they don't attack on the first meeting.
yeah,
They're like,
yes,
there's something,
establish trust.
yeah, like they enjoy that. It's like part of the
Hmm.
cat and mouse, part of the chase.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, what he did also, he would give these women different names. So even though these murder victims were clearly all killed by the same man, even the families that had the name, for the most part, it was like all different names. So police figured out like it is the same guy, but we don't know what his name is because he's giving all these different names. Luckily, after a while, he started getting sloppy, and police were able to track one of his victims back to her job, where Moses had visited twice, talking with her coworkers. So he made himself known to all of these people before offering to take her on a lunch date to discuss her new position with his company. These
Wow.
coworkers were able to recall his name, something Sithole or Sithole. And while
Hmm.
that last name is like Jones in America, it's like super,
Oh,
super,
okay.
super common.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like Anderson or Smith. It's like everybody's fucking
Hmm.
last name. But they were able to pull Moses up in their crime database due to his rape conviction. They're like, let's just pop the last name in our database and see what comes up in the area. And he came up. They showed his mugshot
Okay.
to this dead woman's coworkers, and they all were like, yep, that's him. That's the guy that was
Oh my
coming around.
gosh.
There it
Yeah.
is. So now they know who they are looking for. A manhunt ensues, but Moses had fucking bailed out and disappeared.
Okay. Alright, where'd Moses go?
Well, lucky for us, this angry, sexually violent man also liked the spotlight to some degree, as during this manhunt, he not only killed at least one more woman, probably more, but what is fortunate? I didn't want to say fortunately for us, he killed more women. What I meant is, fortunately for us, he called a journalist, Tamsin De Beer, who worked for the local paper, The Star, and told her, "I'm the man everyone is looking for."
Wow.
hmm He then went into terrible detail about many of the murders and enjoyed knowing that Tamsin was horrified at every account. He called her multiple times over 3 days, each time going into more detail. He told her that one victim knew karate and had put up a fight, and this seemed to
Wow.
excite him. Yeah. He said to the victim, "If you lose, you die." And she did lose, and he did kill her. So, yeah. I can't imagine that,
So scary.
It's
Yeah.
so scary. It's so fucked up. Tamsin was smart. She knew kind of how to manipulate him into getting information. And she told him, "I don't believe you that you're the killer. I need proof." So over these 3 days, he led her and subsequently the police to the bodies of at least five more victims, some of whom are unidentified to this day. So he does have like a certain amount of victims that are just buried in like unmarked graves.
Okay.
She was also smart in getting him to give her the number of the phone booth he was calling her from because this was before cell phones. So he was calling from like a phone, like a payphone.
Yeah.
And she gave this number to police. Moses saw them coming and escaped, and then, subsequently called Tamsin one final time, started screaming at her, threatening her, saying, she betrayed him. So there's that same kind of theme, like with Doris,
Mhm.
like she betrayed him, his mom betrayed him, now this journalist betrayed him. It's like these women don't owe you anything, you
He's
fuck.
got a complex of women, yeah, owing him stuff,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, he really does. Now, remember I said he's married? Like, it feels
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, we forget this because of all this
Forgot
crazy
about that.
shit.
Yeah.
So, right before he disappeared into the night, as a way of getting away from her, he picked a fight with his wife over a set of keys and accused
Hmm.
her of screaming at him, even though she wasn't. And she was like, "What the fuck?" Like, she had no idea. So he's like, "Why are you screaming at me? I'm out of here." And then he left. And he did this
She
as a
just
way.
she's like, "Okay." Like,
Yeah, she's like, "I'm literally not raising my voice. Like, what is going on?" But he didn't want to tell her what happened, and he needed an
yeah.
excuse, like, to leave, right?
Yeah, she's invented something.
Yeah, because this entire time he was playing along as a concerned citizen, worried for his wife's safety, like helping police, talking to
Mm,
them, the whole thing.
classic.
Yeah. So finally, after a couple months on the run, police were able to track him to Johannesburg, where he attacked them with a hatchet and was
Whoa.
shot in the leg as a way of disarming him without killing him. Take note, police of America.
I
You do
love
not have to kill
when
them.
cops do that, that's fascinating. They
hmm
do it in America too, but usually to, like, white people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That when someone who's armed and even attacking police is arrested without being murdered, it's, like, fascinating,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it happens more not in our country apparently, but,
Yeah.
yeah. The
Yes.
other serial killer that was working at that time ended up dying in, like, a shootout with cops, but I don't
Wow.
think it was intentional. I think, like, it just kind of happened because obviously, like, this guy attacked him with a hatchet and they didn't kill him. So, anyway, so he was arrested. Oh, big God, sorry, and confessed to 29 murders while in custody. He said he
Wow.
chose women who looked like Doris as a way of punishing her for betraying him for his rape conviction.
Okay. Baby pathetic man.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. But I also feel like he was escalating his behavior even when he attacked her. So it feels like this is like, typical bullshit murderer behavior, like blaming somebody else for what he's doing when really he was going to do this no matter what?
yeah.
But he's always the victim. It's somebody else's fault, yada, yada, yada.
Mhm.
So this trial was delayed for various reasons until 1997. He was caught in 1995, but it was good because they were able to put more murders together to charge him with. And a judge finally found him guilty of 38 murders and 40 rapes,
Wow.
including, Yes, including those before Doris, because many of his victims now felt safe coming forward and testifying as to what he
Mhm.
did to them. So here is his sentence. He was given over 2,400 years in prison,
Wow.
12 for each rape, 50 for each murder, and 5 years
Mhm.
for each of the 6 robberies he was found guilty of.
Okay.
His wife even testified against him, showing the jewelry he had given her over the last year, which ended up belonging to
Oh,
many of his victims, which is so fucking
that's
gross.
classic. That's
Mhm.
fucked up.
So I'm wondering if he was like telling his wife that he had a job and what he was doing was robbing his victims and bringing that money home. And
Oh.
like that's what he
Oh
was
my
doing.
gosh.
So
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
selling this stuff on the side or
Hmm.
yeah,
Yep. It's so fucking gross.
it
The
is.
judge the judge made sure that he was to serve these consecutively, not concurrently. And it's really funny to me because I don't know who decided to do the math on this, but it was found that he wouldn't be eligible for parole for 930 years when he was 963 years old. Like what's the point of even like figuring that out? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's not going to get out. It's just funny when
No.
people are like he won't be eligible for parole until 2120 and I'm like he's not going to be alive. Like why are we
Yeah.
talking about this?
That's
Anyway,
amazing.
yeah. Also, this is crazy, but it was found that he had AIDS when he was arrested, either HIV or
Oh,
AIDS. I don't know if it was full-blown AIDS at the time. But when he was
okay.
arrested, he was expected to die within 5 to 7 years of his arrest, and he's still alive. He gets excellent medical care in prison, I guess, which is
No,
beyond
because
ironic.
it's not America. Yeah.
Right, right. So he is healthy and still alive. And as for why he was called the ABC killer, because I know I mentioned that at the beginning, it's not really that exciting, which is why I didn't bother like weaving it into the story. It's because his crimes mostly occurred in the cities of Atteridgeville, Boxburg, and Cleveland, which are all in that same area around Johannesburg.
Oh, Cleveland.
Johannesburg? Yeah, Cleveland, South Africa. And they actually happened in that order. So he started in Atteridgeville, went to Boxburg, and then went to Cleveland, which is weird because it literally is ABC. But that's why he
Yeah.
has that nickname. It's not anything like exciting. So,
That's
but
kind of
there it
like the
is.
alphabet murders that I did for Patreon 1,000 years ago, though. It's the
It's
same
like
rationale.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, no, it is. It is. I feel like the alphabet murders are a little bit more interesting, at least in why they're called that. But yeah, in any
It's like
case.
the victims' names, though. So it's like similar.
That's
It's
more
just like, well,
interesting. The
they
victims'
happen to
names
have.
are more interesting to me than like just
Yeah, that's true. The
because these
cities.
cities
Yeah.
are all right next to each other. So I have a feeling that it was just like
Mm,
dumb luck, like just coincidence. So anyway, there it is. There's my story. He's a dick. But he is like
well,
charismatic and good looking. So I think that's why he got away with it for so long, you
mm,
know?
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
Wow. What a piece
Who
of
you got?
shit.
I know
That's
he's the fucking
disgusting.
worst.
Oof.
Yeah, I know.
South Africa.
I
Um,
know.
we're going to Korea from South Africa,
Oh,
and yeah,
lovely.
South Korea's got some really incredible serial killers and horror movies, so they know a thing or two
Yeah.
about horror,
South
both
Korean
real and
horror is
fictional.
like nar
Ooh,
nar.
chef's kiss! It's fucking so
Yeah,
good.
it's so good.
Um, this is Young-chul.
Okay.
And even though I think Young-chul is like his first name, quote unquote, every
Mhm.
article I saw referred to him as you, so I'm gonna go with that.
Okay.
But Young-chul is known as the Raincoat Killer.
Ooh,
And if you're interested, there is a whole Netflix documentary that goes in more depth. Although I wrote too many notes. Than I
nice.
did than I should have. But hopefully, I can do this expediently. Um, so Young-chul was born in 1970. He grew up in Gocheon and struggled with poverty. His mom wasn't in the picture, and he had a violent, abusive stepmom,
Oof.
and that's all he had after his dad died in a car accident when he was a teenager. So rough upbringing there.
Yeah, Jesus.
He for his this serial killer, he
Mhm.
really was obsessed with not living a life of poverty, which is fair.
Mhm.
Like he grew up in, and so he turned away from like careers after he got rejected from college, and instead was like, "I'll do crime." So, so that's the approach he took. He specifically starts thieving money and possessions of rich people, which if he had just stopped there, like
Mhm.
great. I can't be that mad. But he takes things too far.
Okay.
Um, he's not a Robin Hood
No,
um,
too bad.
figure. No.
Could have been.
Um, this shit's gnarly, by the way. I didn't give a preface, but like, you don't even fucking put a seatbelt on. This
Uh-oh.
shit's gonna get really, really gnar.
Okay.
So Yu gets married and has a son, which we're not going to hear a lot about at all. This doesn't deter him from doing crimes. In 2000, I guess at age 30, you got a 3.5 year prison sentence for raping a 15-year-old girl. So
Mm,
that's this first prison sentence that we know of. He also got a series of other charges related to the robberies he was doing.
okay.
Um, After he goes to prison for the rape, his wife files for divorce, so they're pretty much out of the picture. Fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
In 2003, gets out of prison and begins murder spreeing pretty much immediately. Originally, he had claimed that was going to kill his wife and son out of revenge for like leaving him, but
Mhm.
he later says like, nah, I'm gonna kill strangers instead. So
Okay. Little
he can't go
turn.
through with it. Yeah, I think he tries to paint it as like a moral thing. Like I couldn't do it.
I love when
Um,
they do that, when they're like, "Oh,
yes,
it's my
yes,
morals." You're like, "Bro, come
yeah.
on."
So this fucking guy, he has a big moral thing slant
Mhm.
in his mind. Not really, but in his mind. So when so he basically starts out by fashioning his own terrifying sledgehammer.
Mhm.
He like puts a sledgehammer um chonky end piece onto like a different like handle, and then he like shortens the handle. So he puts a lot of TLC and love and care into like fucking his sledgehammer first.
Mhm.
Um then September 24th, he'd only been out a few weeks. He's got his sledgehammer ready, and he zeroes in on his first victim, a retired professor, Lee Dok-soo. And this guy is basically representing his first victim type that he will target, which is wealthy, successful people who live in fancy, wealthy neighborhoods in Seoul.
I
So
remember
that's where,
this, I think. What
yeah.
years are these?
This is 2003.
Yeah, I totally remember
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So he basically busts into Professor Lee's home at 10 a.m. and stabs him in the neck. This is the morning. I don't know why I have to note that. It's makes it worse.
It just feels
Um,
worse. Yeah, it does. I don't know why, but it just
in the
feels so much
morning.
more like gnarly
Um,
when it's in the morning. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yep.
Then he attacked his wife with a hammer. And he poorly staged the scene to look like a robbery. So he's just like berserker mode, going to people's homes and just killing them with like whatever
Mhm.
in the daytime. So
All right.
a few weeks later, he broke into, and I'm not going to actually go through all of his crimes because there's too many, and I got lazy. You ever do that thing where you like start doing them in detail, and you're just like, fuck it,
Well,
I
it's not
can't do
even
them.
bucket so much as it's
I
like,
can't
dude,
do
how
them
long
all.
is this podcast? Like,
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
trying to be here all
We'll
night. We
have.
gotta just
I,
give.
I'm going to give you the mo, so you get it.
Yeah,
You get
yeah.
you get the picture.
My
Um,
my guy had 38
you can't
killed,
do
and
them.
I
No,
listed
you
one
can't
by
do them.
name. It's just like
If
sometimes
if
it's
you did,
not
it would be like a 3-part thing.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
um,
We all know why we're
so
here.
yes. So he broke into another older wealthy person and attacked them and a couple who and their disabled son, whom he attacked with a hammer and killed just with the sledgehammer.
Hmm.
Um, and at this crime scene, they noticed the same footprints from Professor Lee's murder. So he will start leaving the same footprints at every crime scene. This is how they figure out it's a fucking same dude, right? It's a
Oh,
serial killer.
okay, yeah. Hmm.
Distinctive footprints. He breaks into the home of a 69-year-old woman, beats her to death with a sledgehammer. A few weeks later, he breaks into the home of a wealthy family. Oh, this one I did in more detail because it is a bit of an emotional roller coaster. So there's quite a lot going on with this one.
Hmm.
So he breaks into the home of another wealthy family. He threatens their housekeeper and says, "Take me to like the owner," which she does. He is an 87-year-old man, and he's asleep in his bedroom, but also asleep in the bedroom is a 1-year-old boy. Um,
Oh.
yeah, it's unclear if that's his son or grandson or what.
Hmm.
But the housekeeper tries to make a break for it with the baby, and you actually goes after her and gets the baby. It's odd. Yeah, thankfully he doesn't kill him. He just puts him in another room.
Okay.
But he then murders the homeowner with the sledgehammer. He trashed the house, trying to poorly stage another robbery. Thankfully, cutting himself in the process and leaving DNA everywhere. Um,
Good.
so he's pretty bad at this at times here.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get any credit for saving the baby because he then burns the house down on the way out.
Whoa. Wait, did he kill
But
did the baby die?
the baby survives.
Oh,
So
fuck
I just
yeah.
wanted to take you on that emotional roller coaster, go up and down, down and
Jesus.
up. Yeah. But Jesus Christ, yeah. Uh, so you, I think, in response to this very messy murder and the fact that between the footprints and some other things, they're kind of they're on his tail after this
Mhm.
series of murders, and that's also very high profile, of course, when people are getting murdered who are wealthy, right, in like these neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Um, he changes up his MO dramatically, and I can't really think of another serial killer who I've seen do this. Just like
Mhm.
midway through their career of killing, just be like, 180. I'm doing something completely different. So he just does that, and he says he's going to kill sex workers instead and extort money from them. Um, so yeah, and he starts living off of money he extorts from sex workers.
Mhm.
So he didn't just hate the wealthy, which is part of his motive, his moral like motive for the first series of murders. And again, that's more relatable. He still shouldn't kill them, but maybe just like you can steal their stuff. That's cool.
Mhm.
Um, but he was
Jesus.
also a misogynist who slut shamed women and hated sex workers, in part because he dated a woman who worked as an escort and they had like a breakup, and he's a little incel bitch, and he's like, oh, I hate them now, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Investigators from the different Seoul districts, like I said, they've pieced together this is one guy, but they are also stumped by the fact that of the murder weapon. They cannot quite figure out what it was because he did like home make this thing.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Couldn't place it.
yeah, I won't go all into detail behind the scenes of the investigation because that's what the kind of documentary focuses mostly on Netflix, and it's very interesting.
Mhm.
Um, But another thing that comes up a lot is that the police in Seoul suck. Just like
As
police
with everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I learned this a little bit when I got in a really deep like middle of the night Wikipedia wormhole reading about that Korean like ferry boat full of like college students that sank. Do you
Uh-huh.
remember this?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Just remind me to like rant about that sometime. That's like one of the worst, most traumatizing things I've ever like researched for 5 hours in the middle of the night. It was so bad. Anyway, but from that and then this, there's the same vibe where the cops are like, "Shh, everything's fine."
Right, right. Just
There's
don't
a
talk about it.
don't talk about it. Yeah, there's a big, and I've heard the Korean government's like that too, where it's like if anything bad happens, they do a lot of cover up and backpedaling to be like, "Shh, we're perfect. Shut up. Shut up."
Right, right. If you
Um,
don't talk about it, it's not real. If you
don't
ignore it,
talk
it'll
about
go
it.
away. Like, yeah,
Yeah. So the
bad.
police discouraged the media from talking about these murders as a serial killer. They were like, "Do not tell the public that we have a serial killer. That's not real." Um,
Not
for a long
real.
time. Yes. So here's his MO in his many murders of sex workers, which he does about every 2 weeks
Mhm.
for a couple years, 2 years. Well, we'll get into the count here at the end, but he would get them to come back to his apartment under the guise of being a client before hitting them over the head with his sledgehammer with extreme intensity.
Yikes.
Then he would dismember their bodies into 17 to 18 pieces. I don't know why it's so specific.
That's very
Um,
specific.
then, and this will stay with you, so you're welcome. He would tie their hair up into a little ponytail with a rubber band and then hang their severed heads on his toilet paper holder.
What? Okay.
Mhm.
Also, why
Yes.
was the first question in my head, what kind of toilet paper holder could he possibly have that would fucking work? And
I guess maybe in Korea, it's like a little hook or something
I
where
mean,
you know.
we have those here where they're like
Mhm.
standalone and you just like
Yeah,
slide it
yeah, yeah.
on. That's so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
gross, dude.
Yeah,
What the
yeah.
fuck?
He would then catch a cab with the body parts in various bags, and he would put kimchi into the bags to mask the smell. Um, so a lot of cab drivers would be like, "What the fuck
Listen,
is this smell?"
my best friend growing up was Korean, and I lived with a Korean woman in LA. And everybody's always like, kimchi smells so bad, it makes everything stink.
I love
Like,
it.
yes,
I love it.
listen, kimchi is delicious. It will make your butter smell and taste like kimchi because butter soaks up whatever smells are in the refrigerator.
Oh,
Yeah, if you
interesting.
have like a lot of garlic in your fridge or something else
Mhm.
very like pungent in your refrigerator, your butter will taste like it. And that's like a
Interesting.
known
I didn't know
fucking
that.
fact. Yeah, oh yeah. It's happened to me so many times. That's why you have like a separate butter drawer that's like enclosed just to like keep that shit from happening.
Dude,
Um,
I'll eat a pound of kimchi right now. I love it.
Dude, it's delicious. And it is pungent, but it's not pungent enough or similar in smell enough to cover up death. Like that's
I mean,
ridiculous.
it's a wild smell to mix with dead body, for sure.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So let's all say a prayer for those cab drivers because that was rough.
Yeah,
Um,
that's disgusting.
so he would then go to a wooded area, also a waste of kimchi. Sad. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Um, so he would then go to a wooded area behind the Buddhist Bongwan temple just outside of the city. And this is where he would bury them. And he would always mark them in a subtle way, like with a bottle cap, like a small piece of trash. And he said later that he would do this because he didn't want to dig in the same spot later. And he's covering this mountain in graves.
Which is crazy that you would be able to like find a bottle cap. Like it wouldn't get
Yeah.
moved by an animal or the
I
rain
don't think
or
a
the
lot of people
wind.
were hanging out on this like remote hill. Yeah. But yeah, the weather, you're right. Um,
Right, like anything, rain, animals,
Maybe
I
he's
don't
like really
know.
shoving it in there. Maybe he's like sticking it in the mud.
Yeah, maybe.
Um,
I don't know.
so in later in 2004, a man who owned a massage parlor, which is kind of code I think for sex workers,
Yeah.
he noticed that some of his lady employees are going missing, and then he thinks it's very odd when he gets a phone call trying to request one of his ladies' services, but the call is coming from one of his missing women employees. So he's like,
Uh-oh, come on,
"What?"
bro.
from their phone, right?
Yeah.
So he calls police and he's like, something's up. I think this is like this guy's involved. And he thinks this guy might just be like trafficking them or like kidnapping them, you know?
Right, right.
And he doesn't go for, what's really happening.
Mhm,
And they set up a fake meeting with the caller and a pretend sex worker. But then when the guy arrives, it's Young-chul.
mhm.
The police scoop him up to interview him, and they think, like I said, it's going to be sex trafficking at worst, or maybe just solicitation. But he resists violently. He puts up a huge fight, and they're like, "Hmm, what's going on here?"
Right.
Um, he's very dramatic. And when they interrogate him, they very quickly realize there's like a lot more going on with this fucking guy. And he admits to pretty quickly to 4 murders. Um,
Oh,
there's a Yeah, I won't go through the whole exchange with the cops because it's like very comical. And the Korean detectives clearly aren't like the most clean, straight, ethical dudes. They like smack
mhm.
him in the head to start. And then they're like going back and forth, saying he doesn't have the stomach to kill anyone. If they kind of are egging him on.
They're baiting him
Um,
too.
yeah, it's a whole thing. But then he's
Mhm.
like, "Fine, fuck you. I'm a serial killer." Like, okay. He starts with the murders of the wealthy people. Um, then and kind of gives them bit by bit. So,
Mhm.
and I'll talk about the different stages of his like what he admits to. Later on, he will also admit to the random July 2004 murder of a male street vendor, which is completely a one-off. Doesn't match either of his other MOs. And he
Do they
stabbed
really
him.
think he did it?
Yes. No, he
Oh,
definitely did it.
crazy.
And according to him, he killed him because he actually noticed that he had a fake police officer identification card and was like, "Holy shit!" Like said it, like called
Shit.
him out, and so he killed him.
Damn.
Um, and he stabbed him, quote, in the face so many times that none of the flesh remained.
Ooh,
Which
dude.
okay,
Ugh.
and then he burnt him in his van.
Jesus Christ.
His food, yeah, vendor van. And then he also, a month after one round of confessions, he decides to tell police separately that he ate uh, 26 of his victims.
What the fuck?
He specifically ate their livers to quote unquote cleanse his spirit.
Ugh, ugh,
Um,
ugh. Ugh, I'm
There's no
sorry.
hard evidence of this, but, like, I'm not gonna fucking be shocked if that really happened.
That's
But yeah,
fucking disgusting.
he claimed to eat a lot of them. Um, there's gonna be a little cannibalism in my next story too, so that's fun.
Oh,
Um,
great.
yeah, a little bit. So, but just a touch, just a sprinkle.
Okay.
In his interrogation, the I believe, yeah, the first one here where after he's confessed, he actually has a seizure, because he also has epilepsy. Um, and
Oh,
they uncuff him because of he needs, like, medical attention, right?
right.
And after they leave him uncuffed, which is probably not wise, after that, and after he's uncuffed, a detective steps out of the room, and so you just, like, walks out, and then he just, like, casually follows, like, some detectives out of some doors that open automatically, which why in a police station do doors open automatically?
Like, what the fuck,
Anyway,
dude?
so he walks out very nonchalantly and escapes, after he confesses the first time. And there's a crazy intense search that ensues with police thinking like he's gonna kill people like right now, just to stick it to them. So they have to like catch him right then.
Mhm.
So they do. He's in a nearby red light district, and it's a lot of like cool gumshoe police work too of them like it's actually kind of suspenseful of like them figuring out where he went.
They're actually, like, following him and shit,
Yeah,
trying to
just
figure it
lucky
out.
guesses of how they find him. He again resists
Yeah.
arrest violently, and when he's arrested, he tells them it's good that he was caught because he was going to kill 100 more people. This guy's very melodramatic. Um, so after giving a full confession to 19 murders, starter pack here,
Jesus.
um, he takes trips with police to various crime scenes and to the main burial site behind the temple, where they begin an elaborate excavation scene of the various body parts. And you can see some gnarly footage and photos of this excavation online.
Oh, really?
And a lot of those parts are pretty fresh, I'll say.
Ugh.
Um, and they have to label them obviously and go through that, try to identify these women,
Mhm.
like head number one, head number two. There's all these parts just
Ooh.
dismembered. Yeah.
That's so sad to
Um,
think about them, like, labeled like that, and, like, in
it
the
is.
end, that's, like, how
It's
they're
really sad.
being identified. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fucked up.
they're fucking people, and they're just like head number two.
I
Um,
know. Ugh.
and this footage is really something because he was there, and he's really enjoying reliving the murders of each victim. He told the police who were standing with him, guarding him, about each and every victim and how he killed them in depth. And he was like BTK style, like really getting off on it.
Ugh.
Everyone there was like pretty traumatized. And they also
Yeah.
said that the smell was insane, of all the rotting, bodies.
Right.
And I actually, I don't think I'm making this up, but I actually realized I wrote this down, and I'm guessing, but I think he gets the name the Raincoat Killer because during this famous excavation scene, he's wearing a raincoat, and it's pouring rain, and that would make sense. I think. He's wearing a yellow raincoat, and he's wearing a blue face mask, of course, too.
Mhm.
But it's very his signature look is the raincoat. All of his pictures. Um,
It's just because of the timing of the pictures being taken. So he didn't,
yeah,
like, kill them while wearing a raincoat or
I
anything
don't
to, like,
think
keep
so.
blood from getting on him. It was just it's weird how that happens. Like, there will just be one, like, iconic picture, and suddenly it, like, gives a nickname that, like, otherwise makes 0 sense, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, like,
Um,
happenstance.
he's always in a raincoat. Yeah. I was just Googling to see if I'm wrong. I think I'm right. Um,
Mhm.
so he also was allowed to give a statement at some point during this excavation. And here's a little blurb from his statement. I knew you would like it. Quote, uh, serial killer says, quote, I hope this teaches women the lesson that they shouldn't be sluts and the rich should know what they've done.
Ew, fuck him. You can't have those 2 concepts together. Like, you can't
What?
dirty the pure idea of eat the rich with trying to slut shame women. Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, also don't pretend you're some Robin Hood, like, you're just killing innocent people, like, you piece of
Yeah.
shit.
There have been many killers over the years that are like, "I did this to get my revenge on the rich." And I'm like,
And,
"Listen."
like, also, he's not even killing, like, that of rich of people, like a professor, like, come
Well, that's the
on,
thing. Every single one of those people who are like,
They're
"We're
just
killing the rich," like, they just end up killing whoever. And it's like, you
Yeah,
can't.
it's a fucking excuse.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Like, hey, go kill some billionaires and then come back and say you're a Robin Hood, you know?
Stop trying,
Like,
yeah, stop trying to be noble and stop trying to make this something
I'm
that
not
it's not. Like, you're
condoning
just
the
fucked
kill
up.
I'm not condoning killing billionaires. I say as I wink. I'm not condoning that. But come on, a professor is not a billionaire.
No,
I
no.
guarantee if anything, they're underpaid. They're probably paid like $100,000. Anyway.
Right. No, it's stupid.
um,
I always hate that because I'm like, listen, the day that like somebody really is doing that, like
yeah,
it's going to be a different feeling in my heart than all of
for
this
sure.
bullshit,
For
you
sure.
know? Yeah.
This guy's just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So a few more little notable things here. In a televised transfer where they were taking you from one facility to another, a woman who was one of the victim's mothers actually rushed him and tried to just take off his hat. She wasn't armed or anything. She just sort of kind
Mhm.
of gonna lay hands on him. And in response, a police officer very dramatically kicks the woman down the
What?
stairs,
What the fuck?
like full like flat of his foot to her chest, like a cartoon, just like thwop, just like fucking kicks her.
Why?
And this causes a furor in the public because this is a cop kicking a victim's mom, like a little old lady, so older lady.
Yeah, what a
Um,
piece of shit.
yeah. And the Korean police are very. Oh, by the way, as she fell, she yelled, "quote My daughter would have been alive if you caught him sooner."
Oh my god, that poor
Um,
fucking woman.
There were also I didn't even get into it, but there were also, like, a couple times where they almost had him and failed. The investigation was botched a couple times. There was a time where they got him on, like, some minor, like, charges or theft or something, and then there was like, "Meh, he's it's not this guy," you know?
Fucking
So they
idiot.
and also the police chief guy was, like, very dismissive of this incident. He was, like, in the documentary, he was, like, rolling his eyes about it, like, "Who cares? It's not a big deal."
Mhm.
And I'm like, I mean, they did kick a lady on the TV.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
So
What
you
a
can see why the
fucking piece
public
of
would be mad
shit.
about it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah. So when they go, also to use apartment to search the scene, when they put the like little lights up, it's like electric blue, luminol, like that cliche.
Mhm.
They also find a lot of flesh embedded in his ceiling.
Ew, what?
Hmm.
I
Because
don't
of
wanna
the
know how.
sledgehammering. Because of the sledgehammering. Yeah,
Oh,
it's flying up.
ew.
Yeah,
That's fucked up though.
yeah.
That's fucked.
They find also a book of his serial killer doodles, which I won't belabor because they're pretty fucking lame as far as serial killer doodles go. Like little cartoons of him with like a devil cartoon character, and it's like, okay, and my eyes are rolling back. I want to do, it would be fun for Patreon some days to like top 10 rank serial killer art, just like from an art
Just
perspective and
talk
like
shit on
critique
it.
it.
There's so
Yeah,
much bad.
or maybe we should just do the dumbest, and not anything good because it's all bad.
Right. Nothing even worth
Um,
pretending is any good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At his house, they find the sledgehammer, of course, and they're like, "Oh, here's this thing." And they connect all the dots, right?
Mhm.
Um, at trial, you actually pleads not guilty. Um,
What?
After the whole excavation, yes.
Dumb.
And he says that he was forced to give a false confession. And I'm like, what about all the times at the excavation that you like told like 20 other people in depth?
And we're like
Um,
touching yourself while you talked about it.
Yeah, and there's a lawyer, I think, on his
Psycho.
side that's interviewed in Netflix, and he says basically like, "Well, they had nothing more than this confession." And I'm like, it sounds like they had a lot more." Like,
Well, that's ridiculous. They had nothing more besides this like detailed confession that matched what happened while we're at the site of like the bodies. Like, get the fuck out of
yeah, what
here.
about the flesh in the ceiling? What about the sledgehammer?
Yeah. What the
Um,
fuck?
Seems like there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. So there's some wild dudes interviewed here. They also
Wild.
analyze Yeah, they analyze all the evidence just to, build up their case. So it isn't just the confession. They have all the science portfolio, right, to match.
Mhm.
And no shocker, you actually gets the death sentence for 21 total murders. But people think he killed a lot more, which is quite possible.
Probably, yeah.
Um, yeah. And he remains on death row to this day. He's not been executed yet. I guess Korea doesn't kill people as fast as some other places.
Korea versus
Um,
Texas. Texas is gonna win out. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's you, Young-chul. What a wild guy, huh?
Yeah, what a turd, dude.
Very much, very incel-y. It got that vibe.
Very. Yeah, yeah. Which is weird. I looked at a picture of him. He's like kind of good looking. Like
Yeah, he
he's
is.
not yeah, he's not an unpleasant looking man by any means. Like it's weird. It's what a
Yeah,
fucking dick.
incels come in all shapes and sizes, yeah.
I don't know. We did two like conventionally attractive men who were pieces of shit. Could have had good lives and decided to
Yeah,
be awful instead. So fuck them.
yeah,
Fuck
and
them.
come back for part 2 because the second guy I'm covering is, like, one of the wildest dudes I've ever read about, like, I'm just blown away.
I am doing I realized who I had before, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah?
doing a Russian man. So
Oh, good,
that'll be
nice.
a fun one too. Yeah,
Russia shows up when it comes to true crime,
they really
comes
do.
to serial killing, they show up for that
They
party.
do. They don't fuck around. We
No,
could
it's
rank
cold.
the serial killers like worst by country or like countries with like the worst.
Mm.
I mean, America would probably win, but I feel like Russia would
I mean,
give
but
us a
also
run.
there's something to be said for the specific gnarliness, even not like quality versus
Mhm.
quantity.
Yeah, there's just
Um,
a couple in Russia that like really raised the bar.
oof.
It's like a cold war for serial
Mhm.
killers
No,
between
Russia's
America and
wild.
Russia.
And there's some
Yeah.
one-off cases that you read about too, like on like little like single stories that are like not in huge stories, but they're
Right.
wild from Russia. And also, I'll give a
Yeah.
shout out to Australia, which I didn't include because we've done a whole Australian list not that long ago. Um,
Right. Yeah.
but Australia's got some murders.
Yeah. They really do
Oof.
too. There's some good ones everywhere. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, anyway, there they are. We're gonna try. Listen, guys, we're basically skipping this week. We're not, but like we're posting when we can. Life has been crazy. And so we'll have this out soon and then hopefully be on some sort of, track back on track soon. But thanks for your continued patience and support while we get these out as quickly as we can, despite our lives being in the
Yeah.
hands of tiny dictators and
Mhm.
capitalist overlords and all other
Oh,
manner of
yeah.
fuckery.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Very
yeah.
cute overlords and then very evil capitalist overlords.
Yes, yes, it runs the gamut between, like, totally acceptable and then also, like, why is this our life? In any
Yeah.
case
Yeah.
in any case, we'll be back with part 2 shortly, and then a new list coming at you guys next week as well. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please like, rate, review, share with your friends, and until the second half,
Stay.
au revoir.
Best.
West. Ciao.
Ciao.